Gangster romance in literature and cinema, and especially works about the Mafia and gangsters, has always aroused the strongest interest. The gaming industry is also trying to keep up in this regard, from time to time releasing projects on PC and consoles featuring bandits of all stripes. Grand Theft Auto V, the last part of a series of criminal action games for today, providing players with unprecedented freedom of action and allowing you to plunge headlong into the world of crime syndicates, violent showdowns, risky criminal missions, and other dangers. In the fifth part, the events of which take place on the territory of the fictional city of Los Santos, players will get to know 3 controversial characters at once, each of whom has his own difficult fate and his own style in solving constantly arising problems. In addition to the main story missions, Grand Theft Auto V has a lot of side missions and various entertainment, thanks to which you can play it almost indefinitely. Well, for those who think this is not enough, the developers have prepared the Grand Theft Auto Online multiplayer mode. Mafia, the City of Lost Heaven. The legendary game from the Czech studio Illusion Softworks is probably the best Mafia game, despite the fact that it was released in 2002. Over the course of 24 missions, the game slowly reveals a surprisingly touching and exciting story about an ordinary taxi driver, Tommy Angelo, who accidentally got involved in a Mafia showdown and joined the Salary Clan, first as an ordinary performer, and after becoming one of its most valuable and respected members. The player has at his disposal an open, living New Haven, which is a typical American policy of the 30s, where, parallel to ordinary life, another one is hidden from prying eyes, with underground casinos and bars, smuggling of weapons and alcohol, racketeering, robberies, and other criminal activities. Payday 2, a multiplayer game from Overkill Software and Lion Game Lion, released in 2013, is a bank robbery simulator with RPG elements. Up to 4 people can take part in robberies at the same time, while players can choose any of the proposed contracts, which differ in the level of complexity, specific goals and conditions for the robbery. If successful, players receive experience, money, and a random reward. Money can be spent on improving your equipment, and experience points can be spent on pumping skills. The main feature of Payday 2 is the close teamwork between the players, without which it is impossible to successfully complete the robbery, while everyone has their own role in the operation. You can also highlight the random generation of locations, because of which each robbery will be unforgettable and unpredictable in terms of the development of events. Battlefield Hardline, the coolest multiplayer game from DICE and Visceral Games, published by Electronic Arts in 2015, which allows you to play as both cops and bandits. There is also a single company dedicated to a tough policeman conducting an extremely complex and dangerous investigation, but the Battlefield Hardline network component, which consists of several very curious and seriously different modes, is of the greatest interest. An important innovation is the appearance of armored vans, cool sports cars, motorcycles, and even police helicopters in the game instead of the usual tanks, armored personnel carriers, and other types of heavy military equipment. Moreover, in some game modes, not even skirmishes come to the fore, or at least not only them, but also chases, although, again, with the use of various types of small arms and missile weapons. Traditionally, the game has a large set of maps of various sizes and structures, which make the game even in the same mode unique and unpredictable. Saints Row the Third, a third-person shooter dedicated to the battles between street gangs. The game was released in 2011. The developer is Volition. The main features of Saints Row the Third are a huge open world, a plot full of incredible events and characters with multiple endings, a varied and very fun gameplay, as well as the presence of a character generator that allows you to create a hero of the most ridiculous and unimaginable appearance. Kane and Lynch 2, Dog Days. The shooter, released in 2010, continues the story of a couple of notorious villains who trade in daring and risky robberies. In addition to a single-player company, where the player will have to take control of Lynch, Kane in this case will be controlled by AI. Kane and Lynch 2. Dog Days has a cooperative mode where you can play as any of the characters. The game also has 4 new online modes, each of which offers the player their own rules and conditions to achieve victory. Sleeping Dogs is a 2012 game from United Front Games and Square Enix Europe set in Hong Kong that focuses on local cops fighting violent gangs. The main character, Wai Shen, one of the best Hong Kong police officers, an experienced driver, an excellent shooter, and a master of hand-to-hand combat, is being introduced into the largest Samani triad. After that, he has to go through a series of dangerous tasks in order to destroy the criminal network from the inside. Sleeping Dogs has an open world, interesting main and side tasks, elements of a car simulator, fighting game, and role-playing game. Hotline Miami? Highly controversial top-down shooter games from independent Swedish developers Denton Games released in 2012 and 2015. You will play as a maniac who wears animal masks and kills everyone he is told by an unfamiliar voice from the answering machine, every day issuing new tasks. In the second part, the number of characters has expanded, new gameplay elements and new masks have appeared that give certain abilities. The features of the game. In addition to the top view and meaty gameplay with the use of firearms and cutting weapons, are acid-bright pixel graphics, peppy music, and interesting locations, referring to the criminal action games about Miami of the late 80s. True Crime. A third-person crime action game released in 2003 for consoles, but later successfully ported to PC, as well as its 2006 sequel. The events of the first part take place in Los Angeles, which was authentically recreated by the developers, and is a completely open territory for exploration. In the game, in addition to well-organized skirmishes, there was a place for spectacular hand-to-hand fights, sports car chases, and even random tasks. The second part of True Crime is in many ways similar to the first, but its events are already taking place in New York, and you'll have to play as a former member of one of the local gangs who has changed his mind and joined the police service. The Godfather, a third-person action game developed and released by Electronic Arts in 2006, based on the work of the same name by Mario Puzo, as well as its 2009 sequel, also based on the events of the immortal novel and its no less famous film adaptation. The action of The Godfather. The game takes place in the second half of the 40s of the 20th century in New York, where crime flourished at that time thanks to the well-organized activities of the Sicilian Mafia, one of the largest clans of which was the Corleone family. The protagonist is an aspiring criminal, almost still a teenager, who is taken under his wing by Don, and who has to gradually go from a petty henchman to a mafia boss. The Godfather 2 was based on the events of The Godfather 2, of course, with some plot changes added by the developers. In fact, the main advantage of both games is the well-transferred atmosphere of Mafia life. Also in the games there is an open world, elements of a car simulator, and a character editor called Mob Face. Yakuza is a series of crime-adventure beat-em-up games published by Sega. The series is especially loved and popular in Japan. Here it is known as Ryuga Gotoku, but it has its fans among Western players as well. True, for a long time all Yakuza games were available exclusively on consoles, and they made their way to the Western market with great difficulty and often with a delay of several years. But now PC owners can also immerse themselves in the fascinating and cruel world of criminal showdowns between Yakuza gangs, and at the same time feel the pulse of the 80s era, going along with the main characters, Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima, on a virtual journey through the fictional Kamurocho, copied from such really existing serial districts of Tokyo and Osaka as Kabuki-T and Dada-Nabori. According to the plot, Yakuza 0 is a prequel to the main licensed parts of the series, the gameplay of which is based on the principle of free movement well known to fans and a detailed recreation of the urban area. In the process, the hero can interact with objects and other characters in every possible way, pass various tests, and play many games. Here players will also find the Events Story mode, which allows you to go through the main scenario of the game and side quests. If your favorite game is not included in this list, write in the comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel, watch our other videos, press like, turn on notifications, and you will always be aware of what to play today.